So this is ENGWE's new L20 2.0. This is an updated version of the L20 that now has a 52 volt system. The old one had a 48 volt system, and it's their folding kind of step through design. And this looks like a really nice e-bike, especially for the price. Right now they're asking $799 for this, and I think that's a great value for a 52 volt bike. So speaking of the specs, we have an aluminum alloy frame. We have 20x3 kind of fat tires. It's kind of in between a regular bike tire and a fat tire, so I guess these are chubby tires. A 750 watt, 1125 watt peak hub motor in the rear. This also has more torque than the old L20. This has 75 Newton meters. And again, this is on a 52 volt system. It's a 13 amp hour battery, whereas the old L20 was on a 48 volt 13 amp hour battery. So they're also saying that on throttle, this can go 20 miles an hour, and on pedal assist mode, about 28 miles an hour. So I believe this should be a class 3 e-bike. So they're saying we can get 28 miles on throttle mode and then 84 miles on pedal assist mode, which I'm assuming is the absolute lowest pedal assist and you're not going very fast. All right, so at the front of the bike, we have our 20x3 kind of fat tires. They look pretty good. They're a knobby tread. The tires themselves, they look to be, I don't really see any brand name on here. They probably are generic tires, but they look like they should be good. I haven't even taken this bike out yet, so we'll see when we go out and test drive this thing. But on this side, we have the 180 millimeter mechanical brakes. Now, they are mechanical brakes, so they're not gonna be as good as hydraulic necessarily, but I think for 20 to 28 miles an hour, these should be perfect for this bike. And when you do have to maintain these, it's gonna be a little less complicated than having to bleed hydraulic brakes. So we also have our front suspension here, which isn't really adjustable. I believe you just can lock this out. There's no real dampening adjustment. And then on the front here, we have our headlight, and this is what the beam pattern looks like. I'll turn the light off here. So yeah, that's what our beam looks like there. And then for the headlight, you can see it's attached to the front cargo rack. So when you move the wheel, when you steer, you're not gonna be moving with how your forks are. So speaking of that, we have a front cargo rack here. It says the max is 8 kilograms on here. So decent. This is a good commuter style e-bike for a more urban area. So then here we have our front quick release so that we can fold these handlebars down. Like I said, this is a folding bike, so you can fold the frame, which I'll show you guys in a second. But that's how you fold the handlebars on here. The mechanism feels really solid and sturdy. It feels like it's not going anywhere. All right then, so on our handlebars here, we have our front brake, and then we have a little bell here. And then we have our pedal assist up and down. And then we have our headlight button here. We have a button that says 1 right here. I'm not sure what that does. And then we have our power button here. And then if we just press that and turn it on, you can see we have a nice color display with our speedometer, our mileage and everything. And then that one button that's marked 1, that just switches through your menu here. And you can switch through your odometer, your max speed, your average speed, and your trip, and then it shows you your miles an hour, and then you can go through the pedal assist numbers here. There are 5 pedal assist, and you have a nice battery bar up at the top there. And then over here we have our shifter, our 7-speed Shimano shifter, which should look pretty familiar. And then we have a quarter twist throttle, which isn't working because we're in pedal assist 0. So if we just switch it out, and you can see we get going. And then our rear brake is on the right-hand side here. So if you do want to do some wheelies, you have your right brake on this side, and you have some pretty standard e-bike type grips here. I see these a lot on a lot of e-bikes. These are pretty generic, but they get the job done and they don't move around and they feel pretty comfortable, but we'll try that out more when we get this thing out for a ride. And this also is adjustable, so you can move this lever here, and then you can move the handlebars up or down with the seat height. And it's sort of locked in place straight, so you can't move it around, which is nice. Then we'll just close that up. So like I said, this is a folding e-bike, so we have our little folding mechanism here. You just pull this lever up, and you pull that, and then you can fold it up just like that. And then you can throw it in a car a lot more easily, but it's really easy to just move that mechanism. And then when you wanna lock it back, you just push the lever back in place, make sure it's locked, and then you're good to go. And this bike does weigh about 70 pounds without the battery. So if you do have to carry this upstairs, or throw this in a car. It's not too bad, it's not super light, but at the same time, that's kind of what you expect with an e-bike, is a bit heavier. So down here we have our included folding pedals, which is nice, again, for when you want to fold this thing up. It's really compact, and they just lock back into place like that. They feel really sturdy. They are metal right here, but then they are plastic. And then here we have our suspension seat post, which I haven't taken this bike out yet, but we're gonna talk about that in the test ride. But just from sitting on it, it seems okay. It seems pretty budget, but it is nice. It is better than no rear suspension, since this bike doesn't technically have any rear frame suspension there, but the seat seems pretty comfortable, and it's got this nice like contrast stitching, which looks really cool. It almost looks like a car interior or something. But since the battery is right here, this little lever on the back allows us to flip our seat up, and then we can take our battery out. Now you can see it is locked in place right there. So this battery is actually, this key right here is actually like an on-off switch for the battery. So you have to have the key in order to run it, so it has to be locked down. But you can see when we twist it, the lock comes out, and then we can just pull our battery up. This battery weighs about just over 9 pounds, and it does have, it is plastic, but there is like this metal enclosure on it, which is really nice. And we'll just slide this back on. It's really easy to slide on since it has this track right here. And then you would just pop it in, and then you would turn the battery on, and you would be good to go. But you do, like I said, you have to keep that key in there. So we can pop our seat back down, and then there is a seat adjustment here. Suspension seat post, like I said. And on the back, we have a rack here, and it says the max is 25 kilograms. So it is nice to have this cargo rack. You can definitely tell that this is a more like commuter, urban type of bike. This isn't really a super off-road type of bike. This is a brake light back here, and it turns on when you have the headlights on, and it also does turn on when you pull the brake levers. And you have these metal fenders on here, which is nice to see, especially at this price point. So then back here you have the 750 watt hub motor. So that's what the serial number says back there if you're interested. So we do have our mechanical rear brakes here. Again, 180 millimeters. And then we have these kind of, I don't know, quotes back here, explore a new way. And they kind of have this little thing with the L where it's orange. And then it says L20. I'm not a huge fan of when bikes just put random sayings on it, and when there's a ton of branding on the bike, but you know, it says ENGWE L20, like there's just a ton of stuff. I don't know, I like a more clean look, but you can live with it. Nobody's really gonna care anyways. And then down here we have our controller box in here, and there is a little thing down here to protect the controller from taking damage and getting hit. But overall, this feels like a really strong frame so far, and I'm happy with what this is, especially for the price. Back here we have, again, our 7 speeds, and then we have a derailleur guard, and then here's our Shimano tourney derailleur, which is pretty standard fare for these types of e-bikes, especially at this price point. I'm not someone who pedals e-bikes a ton, but this more is a bike that's made to pedal, so we'll see how the pedaling and the chain and everything feels when we get going. And then the unboxing process for this bike was really good. It just came in a regular box. And assembly was actually probably the simplest I've ever had on a bike. There really wasn't that much need for tools. And they do include some tools in there for you, but I was really happy with the assembly process. It's super easy. Since this is a folding bike and a lot of stuff folds on here, a lot of it is already pre-assembled for you. So again, this has been one of the easiest bikes to assemble, so that's nice. So anyways, guys, that's a overlook on this bike. How about we get this thing out on the road and see how it does? We just inflated the tires up to the recommended 25 to 45 PSI. So we're gonna get this thing out and see how it rides. All right, guys, so setting off here on the L20 2.0. This thing feels really good. This is my first 52 volt bike, and it actually kind of pulls you. At first, you can tell the power kind of comes on. It comes on gradually, but man, it almost wants to throw you off the back. Like it feels really good. I'm just gonna go up this hill real quick and see how it does. So basically from a full stop. Yeah, you can feel it wants to pull you up there. So this is, overall initially, I'm impressed with this power here. Brakes are okay, they're mechanical. They don't really have too much feel to them, and it kind of takes a lot of input to get this thing stopped, especially if you're stopping downhill like this. On throttle, this thing cuts off at about 20 miles an hour. If I pedal though, this thing will actually go 28 miles an hour. And look, over 20 miles an hour, I'm actually not doing anything. So I wish that you could get to 28 just on throttle, because I'm pedaling, but nothing's happening. I'm not helping the bike out at all. So this is a cadence sensor bike. I mean, for the price, I would kind of expect that. Torque sensor bikes usually are more expensive. Going over some bumps there. The suspension's okay on this. You can tell this is built more for like street riding and stuff like that. My first impressions is this ride's pretty good. It kind of is pretty quick to respond. The handlebars are pretty much right over the front wheels, so you get that quick turn in. These tires have good grip. All right, so real quick, let's see how accurate this speedometer is. So bike says we're going about 21 miles an hour, and on the GPS it says we're going about 20. So I'd say it's pretty accurate, maybe like a mile an hour off, but that's not bad. So we've gone about 6 miles, and now I've been cruising around for a little while, and it says we're at about half battery life now. I didn't get a chance to fully charge this battery up, but I did charge it for about 2 hours last night, so I almost got it full. On throttle only, we are operating at nowhere near what this bike can do. At about 20 miles an hour, we're definitely not pushing this bike to the limit, so you could get some pretty good mileage off of throttle only on this bike, I would assume. So when I first got on this bike, I said that it feels really torquey. And once you kind of get the bike going, I think it's programmed to kind of ease you into the top speed. But when you're just on throttle, it feels really good. And I think this is because this is a 52 volt system. I've only ridden on 48 volt bikes, so I mean, this feels really nice. I wish that you could unlock this and just go fully on throttle only. But I mean, otherwise, going 20 miles an hour, this feels totally fine. This is definitely a bike that is made to pedal. A lot of my other bikes, my moped style bikes, those aren't necessarily like bikes that you'd want to pedal, but this is a lot more set up for pedaling. You know, you have an actual bicycle seat and you have a good riding position. And I think if you're a taller person, you'd be able to fit on this bike really well. These handlebars and the seat goes up really high. So let's check out what pedal assist 1 is going to get us. I'm going to drop down a few gears here. And it looks like pedal assist 1 is getting us to about 8 miles an hour. 9. All right, let's shift to pedal assist 2. That didn't really do anything. It's still about 10 miles an hour. Pedal assist 3 kind of throws you back. So pedal assist 3 wants to take us 15 miles an hour. Pedal assist 4, I think that wants to take us about 21. Yeah, pedal assist 4 is about 21 miles an hour. And then pedal assist 5 is when you get into the 28 mile an hour top speed. And like I said earlier, I'm not doing anything right now. I am just completely ghost pedaling. This thing gets going. Yeah, if you need to keep up with traffic, I think this is plenty right here. If you're in the city and you gotta keep up with traffic a little bit, you can just kind of take off. The motor on this bike is actually pretty loud, so you get the sensation like that you're just taking off. Yeah, so cruising at 27, 28 miles an hour. You can see our battery just dropped a little bit, probably voltage sag. But how about we get on the brakes and test those? Yeah, so I mean, good brakes. If you're gonna panic stop, I do kind of wish that this bike had hydraulic brakes, because if you are gonna panic stop on this thing, it might not be the fastest. But other than that, the mechanical brakes feel good. I mean, they're pretty responsive. You just have to really pull on them. I haven't been on a bike with mechanical brakes in a while, so I have to get used to it a little bit. But other than that, they feel good. They get the job done, and I think that they'll last for a while. And they are 180 millimeter rotors, which is really nice. They're gonna stop you a little bit faster there. So another thing that I like on this bike is the styling. It's actually really unassuming. A lot of my other bikes are kind of more like flashy looking, and they don't really look like regular bicycles, but this definitely looks like a regular bicycle. Kind of looks like the bikes that you can rent in like a city, like around here in Chicago, it's the Divvy bikes. And this kind of looks similar to those bikes, so it's kind of unsuspecting. Nobody really is going to give you a hard time for riding this thing. You know, this is a bike that definitely kind of follows the rules, the whole class 2, class 3 thing. So a class 3 e-bike, from what I understand, can go a top speed of 28 miles an hour when you're pedaling, but only on throttle, you're supposed to only be able to go 20. So this bike kind of, it's a very legal bike, we'll say. Some of my other bikes out of the box, you know, you can go over 30 miles an hour on throttle. And technically those may not be legal where you're at, but it is a lot of fun. So I mean, my point is you're not really gonna get in any trouble on this bike because, you know, it is legal. I mean, cops really can't give you a hard time. I forgot to show earlier, but it does look like there's like a VIN on this bike too. So if you need to register it, you should be able to register this, no problem. ENGWE is a pretty big company. So we're gonna turn left here. ENGWE is a pretty big company, so I mean, you shouldn't really have any trouble with registration and stuff. And a lot of times on these bigger brand bikes, you know, they're gonna have to follow the rules more. If you're just buying some random bike from China, then, you know, they don't really have any obligation to follow the rules. I don't know if this is picking up on camera, but these are metal fenders, and you can kind of hear the gravel sort of plinking up against the metal fenders on here. So if you're gonna take this on roads like this, where it's this kind of crushed limestone, you are gonna hear it a lot. Off-road on this limestone trail here, ride isn't too bad. I mean, you could probably hear in my voice, it's a little shaky. It's definitely not as comfortable as my other moped bikes, but you could feel that seat suspension post doing a little bit. I weigh about 150 pounds, about 5'9", and I fit on this bike really, really well, and it feels really good. The front forks definitely help out, but this isn't like a super plush ride. This again is this is more of a road bike. And these tires do help out with the ride a little bit. But again, these are 3-inch fat tires, so they're not the full 4-inch like on my other bikes that I've reviewed. But they are comfortable, and I do have these pretty inflated here, so it is a little bit rough, but if you wanted to deflate them, I'm sure you could, just to get a better ride. Man, this thing, I hate that it's limited at 20 on throttle, because you can feel it just wants to go. I bet you this bike could go at least 30. I'm gonna figure out a way to see if I can get rid of this limiter later on. This is definitely not what this bike is made for. Yeah, this doesn't feel great. This isn't very comfortable. Yeah, off-roading is not this bike's strong suit. This is definitely not what it's made for, but I mean, you can go on some grass. I would probably deflate the tires though. So I mean, styling is obviously always going to be subjective, but I think this is a pretty good looking bike. They do offer it in a couple other colors. I think they offer it in this light pink and then sort of like a tealish green color. But I mean, I think I had to go with this black because it blends in more, and black is always cool. But I think as far as styling goes, it looks really nice. I mean, if you're in a city, you're going to blend in with everybody else, which is kind of what you want on an e-bike. You know, you don't really want to stand out if you're going to be leaving this thing outside and stuff. But yeah, we've taken it about 8 miles so far, and I've been really impressed. This thing rides really well, and I've been very happy with it. This has also been my first experience with ENGWE as a company. They're a pretty big brand, and they shipped out really fast and everything, and they sent me this bike to test out. I didn't take any money from them or anything, but they did send me this bike to test out, but I am really happy with it so far. I don't know if I showed you guys the bell. Yeah, there's no horn on this bike, so it is what it is. I would almost prefer a bell on like trails and stuff because you can kind of freak people out with a horn sometimes. Again, like I said earlier, these cargo racks are pretty nice. There is a lot of storage. This could be a really practical bike. I personally don't really use my bikes for transportation or anything. I use them more for fun, so I don't really use the cargo racks and stuff. So, but I could definitely see if you're in the city and you know you got to throw some groceries in the back. You could put a bin right here and you'd be good to go, man. Then you could put some stuff on the front. You could put your dog on the front or something. But this is really cool. The brakes have this little rubberized piece on the front here, which is nice for extra grip. Screen has been really bright and it looks really good during the day. So I was filming some B-roll down here and I noticed that my tire was coming off the wheel, and I ended up getting a flat tire on this bike. I'm not sure, it doesn't look like anything punctured it. I don't know if I broke the tube, but maybe taking it off-road was a little much. So I'm gonna try and limp this thing home. It is holding some air, but yeah, I'm gonna try and limp this thing home and see what we can do. So we're back, and this tire is completely screwed in the front. I had to walk it back to the car, and on the bright side, this fits into the side of a TC quite nicely. So this is a really portable bike. I just had to fold down the handlebars. All right guys, so I just got back from a ride, and as you saw earlier, we got that flat tire on the front. I figured that out, I handled it. I went and I bought a new inner tube. It was kind of a hard size to find since this is a 20x3. Luckily a bike shop had one in stock, but yeah, I took this thing out for more of a ride. I didn't get the GoPro out, but I did want to just give you guys my update and some final thoughts. We took this bike for about 15 miles, so I have no doubt that you could get over 20 miles of range on this bike, absolutely. So some of the things that I really like about this bike is the seat and the riding position overall is just very comfortable. It's a pretty upright position. It's really good for pedaling, and pedaling feels really comfortable on this bike. Another thing that I really like about this bike is its step-through design. It's very easy to get on. You don't have to lift your leg up really high. So if you have mobility issues, or if you're older and you want to still be able to get on a bike, this is really comfortable to be able to just step through and get in. Another thing that I enjoy about this bike is the cargo rack. Like I said, I don't really use bikes to get around the city or anything, but this is a really nice option if you do plan on using this to carry some light cargo. Another thing that I really like at this price is this color screen, and it is ENGWE branded, so that's really nice, attention to detail and everything. And the screen looks really good. You can see it with sunglasses on. I do like the fact that you can fold this bike up. It makes portability really good. As you guys saw earlier, I could fit it in my car, no problem. And overall, I just really like this bike for the price. I think this is a good bike at $799, and I think it's something that a lot of people can get into, and they can use this as their daily driver. They can use this as their transportation. And some of the things that I didn't really like on this bike is this motor is nice and torquey and it is powerful, but it is really loud. I'm sure you could hear it while I was riding it. It is kind of loud, and it's just something that I noticed. It never gave me any issues, but it just is kind of noisy. The twist throttle on here, it seems like it's either on or off. It doesn't seem like you can gradually kind of roll onto the throttle. It seems like all the roll onto the throttle is just with the programming of this bike. It's not because you can kind of roll onto this throttle. That's just what I found on it. Another thing that I wasn't crazy about is the fact that it lacks rear suspension. So I mean, that can kind of make the ride a little bit harsh, but I mean, if you're gonna be on city streets, it's fine. As long as you're on relatively smooth pavement, it's good. The front shock is good, and it did help. And look, they did give you the suspension seat post in the box, but it doesn't really feel that great. You can definitely tell it is pretty budget. So also, as I was talking about earlier on the ride, you're just kind of ghost pedaling this bike above 20 miles an hour. I really wish you could just twist the throttle and be able to go 28, but I know that for a lot of legal and safety reasons or whatever, you have to cap it at 20, and then you can only pedal at 28. Pedaling at 28, you need some tall gears, and after 20 miles an hour, this setup you're not doing anything. So overall, guys, the L20 2.0, I think that it's a good bike for the price, especially the fact that you can get that 52-volt system. I think that it's a pretty good value bike. I think for what it's built for, it does it really well. And I think that if you live in a city or a place where you're biking around town a lot and you need some storage space, I think this can be a really good option. So if you do want to check this out, you can go ahead and use the link in the description, and you can go ahead and get a discount code there. Overall, I really like this bike, and I think that if you're in the market for a bike that's more of a utility bike like this, you should go ahead and give the L20 2.0 a look. That's going to be it for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you guys in the next video.